Okay, so as we all know, the New Orleans Pelicans went 49-33 last season. They finished at the 7th seed, ended up becoming the 8th seed and getting swept by the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is due to a lot of injuries. Brandon Ingram got injured about towards the last few legs of the NBA regular season, and that led to the New Orleans Pelicans falling in a few standings where they were around the 4th or 5th seed, getting ready to play the Clippers in the first round, and then fell to going up against the Lakers in a play-in that made them look like they were about to win that game. And then Zion Williamson went down. They lost that game. They beat the Kings without Zion, and then they get swept without Zion against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So after that season, the New Orleans Pelicans went into the offseason, and they were pretty aggressive to say the least. They went out and drafted Yves Missy, and they also traded for DeJounte Murray. But on top of that, they lost their center in Jonas Valanciunas. So now the two centers they have on their roster currently is Daniel Tice and Yves Missy. So we always talk about with the size that the Western Conference brings with teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves and now the Oklahoma City Thunder, who just brought in Isaiah Hartenstein. You still have Nikola Jokic in the Denver Nuggets. You still have Anthony Davis in the Los Angeles Lakers. The Kings still have Domantas Sabonis, who's a solid rebounder. And then you have to worry about the double bigs in Dallas that make a very big difference. The biggest question for the New Orleans Pelicans is where are they going to get their size, because they do not have a starting level big man on their roster currently. Now, it's still offseason. There's definitely something that can happen that can bring in a big man for the New Orleans Pelicans, and all this concern goes away. But there have been rumors that Zion Williamson will be playing the 5 this season. And I'm not saying that he's going to be playing the 5 full time, but who knows? He may get some substantial amount of minutes where he is playing the center position. And I think with guys like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, you can definitely make this lineup work, but it really concerns me with the defense and the rebounding. And I went on Basketball Reference to take a look at this stat, and the lineup is CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson. They're minus 15.7 when it comes to defensive rebounding percentage. They're minus 5.2 when it comes to defensive rebounds as a whole. They're minus 18.6% in true rebound percentage. And when we look at some of the teams in the NBA who are some of the better rebounding teams, these teams tend to get far in the NBA Finals. And when we look at some of these teams in the Western Conference, the Denver Nuggets are going to be able to rebound the basketball. The Lakers, the Kings, the Timberwolves, the Thunder. And it really makes me wonder how good this can this Pelicans team be without a starting level big. Because when we look at some of the championship level teams in the NBA, they all have multiple big man rotations. I made a video about this a few months ago. This was a long time ago, like right after the Celtics won the championship. Having a starting level big or having multiple starting level bigs in your rotation is very important for winning in today's basketball. And I'm not even going to talk about the Denver Nuggets because they have the best big man in the league. But when we talk about teams like the Knicks and why they were so good last season, they had a rotation with 2 starting level bigs in Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein. A big role in the Dallas Mavericks making the NBA Finals last season was because they had 5-minute spurts at 2 starting level big men coming in the game at multiple times, like Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. The Boston Celtics had multiple big men in rotation like Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford, and then when Kristaps Porzingis went down, Xavier Tillman came in and gave you some solid minutes. And then we can't forget about the Minnesota Timberwolves, who had Karl Anthony Towns at the power forward position, who had played some of the best defense in his life in the playoffs. And then you have the defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert. And then you have the 6th man of the year in Naz Reid. So it really disturbs me, or it really scares me to see that this New Orleans Pelicans team is running with this type of lineup. And yes, you can make it work, especially with the defense. But now it's just like, who do you start or who do you play in that lineup? Because when we look at it, Herb Jones is not going to be a guy that comes off the bench. I mean, this is a guy that was all defensive first team this past season, if I'm being correct. But then Trey Murphy, I think, plays a better small ball 4 than Brandon Ingram could. So it leads me to think, like, what can this starting lineup be, or what can this lineup be? If it's not a starting lineup, what can the lineup be? Can it be DeJounte, CJ, Herb, Brandon Ingram, and Zion? Or can it be in spurts, DeJounte, CJ, Herb, Trey Murphy, and Zion Williamson? And now that opens up a whole can of worms where you have guys like Brandon Ingram who cannot find a home outside of New Orleans. I mean, this is a guy who has not gotten his extension and is pretty available for teams that will send the right offer. I'm sure if there's a team that has a center that wants to bring in a guy like Brandon Ingram, the Pelicans are not saying no to that trade. But when you look at teams that have maybe an extra big man on their roster, I don't think they're in the position to go get a guy like Brandon Ingram. Like the Portland Trailblazers, I'm sure Rob Williams is going to find a new home before the season is over, but I don't think the Trailblazers are in a position to go bring in a guy like Brandon Ingram and be like, yeah, we got Brandon Ingram, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons. This is going to be our team to push towards for the future. I don't think Brandon Ingram is that caliber of player that can elevate that team to even a play-in spot. So then to bring him in, he's going to bring in multiple wins for this Portland Trailblazers team, and now they're probably going to have like a 6th or 7th pick, or maybe instead of having a top 4 pick that they're intended to have this season. Or a team like the Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Onyeka Okongwu, and Clint Capella. Clint Capella could very well be on the move before the season is over, but do the Atlanta Hawks really want to bring in Brandon Ingram when they had all the chance in the world to bring him in when they sent out DeJounte Murray? I don't think so. And this is still a very talented roster. I mean, you have guys like Trey Murphy, who has not really gotten his chance to shine, in my opinion, because he's sitting behind Brandon Ingram. I think this is a guy who's a phenomenal spot-up shooter. He has the length to be such a great defender. He's one of those switchblades offensively and defensively that you can throw into a lineup if you're the New Orleans Pelicans. You have DeJounte Murray, who can be the lead ball handler that the New Orleans Pelicans desperately needed last season. CJ McCollum has quietly become one of the best shooters in the league, and Zion Williamson just came off of his healthiest season. So with all the talent that you have in New Orleans, I think it's really time to start putting it together, because I was watching somebody, I really do not remember, but whoever it was, they made a really good point in saying that a lot of people in the front office were just putting together as much talent as they possibly could because they did not know how long Zion was going to be healthy. And when I mean how long Zion is going to be healthy is, we still want to keep our jobs in the front office. If I'm a general manager, if I'm a head coach, we still want to keep our job, and our job does not want to be predicated off of Zion Williamson's health. So if he's not there, we're still going to bring in as much talent as possible so we can still win some games, so we all can keep a job and we can still put food on the table. So I understand why you bring in so much talent. Maybe Brandon Ingram wasn't the best fit next to Zion Williamson. Maybe CJ McCollum is a head scratcher. Who knows? These guys are still producing at a solid level, and I think there's still some trade value for Brandon Ingram, but the money he's making and the production that he provides for a team, I don't think he is as versatile enough for a team to be like, yeah, he may not be able to have the ball in his hand as much as he would like to, but he can still be effective on the defensive side of the ball. He can still be a solid playmaker. He can still be a solid rebounder. I don't think Brandon Ingram provides you of that. So that is what pushes him off of a lot of teams, in my opinion. But leading back to it, defensively, I think they were solid with Zion at the 5 position. There's definitely a lot of switchability with this roster, especially with Herb and Trey being in the same roster or being in the same lineup. And I think Zion being able to be at the 5 spot could definitely give you some more switchability. And if DeJounte Murray can just lock in a little bit more on the defensive side, I'm not saying he can be the level of defender that he was in San Antonio, but I definitely think that if he plays next to a Herb Jones, the defensive effort is going to be there a lot more, especially the fact that DeJounte's not going to have to guard the best player, because DeJounte has a track record of guarding the best player in Atlanta, but now he probably gets the second best perimeter player on the floor every single night instead of the first, especially next to Herb Jones. And I think that can definitely get him some favorable matchups where he can hold his end on a top 10 to 15 defense in the league. But what I'm getting at is the rebounding. The rebounding is so important. Because when you're in a 7-game series against a team like the Lakers, who have had your number, a team like the Nuggets, who have the best big man in the league, a team like the Thunder, who are going to be great rebounding, and they're going to be great defending the rim. Chet Holmgren is one of the best rim protectors in the league, and Isaiah Hartenstein is no slouch either. It's just going to be really hard in a 7-game series to really see a small ball lineup of, let's just say it's DeJounte, CJ, Herb, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson. It's going to be tough to see that team rebound and really make up for all the good work they've put in on defense for the prior 20 seconds. So let me know what you guys think about this New Orleans Pelicans lineup and the new rumors that we have about Zion Williamson playing the 5-man position. Shout out to Kenny Beecham, a longtime Chicago guy, who gave me the inspiration for this video, and I wanted to give my take on the whole aspect of Zion Williamson being the small ball 5. And if you guys think that this lineup can really progress and really become something, let me know in the comments. If you guys think this lineup is going to be awful, once again, let me know in the comments. And if you guys like this type of content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'm out. Peace.